Well, after a brutal attack from Chase, the aftermath signifies a huge change of Oliver in another amazing episode. Hey guys, remember for Arrow, Season 5, Episode 18, Disbanded, and I was definitely really looking forward to this episode, especially after last week's episode. What an incredible episode that was. As you guys know, I think it's one of the best episodes this show has ever done, without a doubt, and this episode, while definitely not as good as last week's, was still an incredible episode. We had some really compelling stuff going on here. Definitely a little bit more tame than last week, obviously, but this still was an amazing episode. The season continues to be incredible. If we are going on the trajectory we are right now, I could really see this being the best season of Arrow, honestly. Just the way we're getting into Oliver as a character, there was so much good stuff going on here, but let's just get into this episode because we start off right where last week's episode left off. As Oliver puts on a clean shirt, we see Diggle, Felicity, and Curtis ask him what happened. He tells them to go home and says that Chase is right, and everyone around him suffers or dies. You can really see throughout this episode that Chase has really gotten into Oliver's head, and it's making him rethink a lot of things, and he repeats his order to go, and Diggle asks Felicity and Curtis to leave him alone with Oliver, and once they go, Diggle says he doesn't think Oliver should be alone, and the big focus on this episode is Oliver and Diggle, which was a very smart choice, especially because so many people have been against Felicity. It was cool to see Diggle against Oliver and not have it be Felicity and have someone else be against him. It made sense why Diggle would be the one to do that. You know, these two have been friends for as long as Oliver can remember. So Diggle says he doesn't think Oliver should be alone. Oliver says that he does think that and tells him to leave, that he needs to go at this alone. He doesn't want to get them involved what's going on. And the next day, Felicity's apartment, Felicity and Curtis tell Renee and Dinah that the team is done, basically, that he just wants to shut it down completely. And Diggle comes in, says that Oliver will eventually get it together, and Thea agrees. And I love that we quickly established what Oliver meant by I'm shutting it down. Like, he's not shutting down his entire life, but he is shutting down the team. He really feels that by having the team there, he is just putting them at risk, and in many ways you can understand that. I mean, think about it. Chase will go after anyone that seems to be close to Oliver. You know, if he gets word of Felicity or anyone that, like, he obviously knows about them, but if he sees how close they are to Oliver and the relation that they have, he will easily take a strike at them, and he will do whatever he can to try to push Oliver's buttons. You can really see the way he's done that, and basically, she says she'll contact him once they upstate her, and Felicity thinks that things are different, but Diggle insists that they're Star City's last line of defense, and all of them gear up, all of their gears at the bunker, and Oliver reprogrammed the security protocols, and Diggle says that Lila will loan them gear from Argus. As for Chase, Diggle says that there are other people in the city that need saving. It's not just, yeah, there are definitely other people they need to save, and Felicity says as she leaves that she'll track down Chase while the others protect the city, and they can use her apartment as their base. And I like that Felicity is not really in the center of all this. Like, she's kind of indifferent to everything. Like, she can understand why Oliver is doing this, but at the same time, it doesn't really concern her, and I really do like that. Like I said, so many people complain what Felicity has done to the show, and there's just been so much, such an outcry for Felicity, and I think the reason it's been a little bit more on the back burner this season, because Felicity has not been really that much involved with the main course of everything, except for Billy's death. That's really been the only thing that's really affected her, but you can see that she's quickly gone over it. She's gone over to Helix, and I like that Felicity, for the most part in this episode, like I said, isn't really involved with the main storyline. I think it was a very smart choice to do that. But we then cut to 5 years ago, and unlike last week's episode, we don't get a ton of flashbacks with this one, which makes sense. Most of last week's episode was flashbacks, and we see at the Bratva bar, Oliver tells Anatoly that he's back to the island to establish his cover, and Anatoly says that the Bratva used to work for the people, and he needs Oliver to help him rebuild the organization. So Oliver says he's going to in 48 hours, and we cut back to the present, where Felicity arrives at the Helix HQ. Elena shows her the information that they've gathered on Chase, and they have footage of Chase removing his mask. And I like that even though she's not working for, Oliver, she is still trying to take down Chase, obviously. So they have footage of Chase removing his mask, but he has tech that prevents the camera from capturing his image. However, Elena figures they can reverse engineer and produce videos showing that Chase is, in fact, Prometheus. There's a way for them to do that. So Susan visits Oliver and says that it was Chase's fault, not Oliver's, and Oliver says that he created Prometheus, and Susan explains that she told the police that Chase abducted her, and Chase had an alibi, and Susan asks Oliver to corroborate his statement, but Oliver says that Chase would have planned for that, and his has to do something that Chase hasn't planned for, and he tells Susan that he can't be with her. Yeah, he basically breaks up with her, not because of he doesn't want to be with her, it's because he feels he can't possibly be with her. That by being with her, he's just making her a danger, and he's just putting her in danger by doing that. And he apologized for not knowing better. So she walks out without a word, and it's really sad. I mean, it really seemed like these two were getting things back on track, but yeah, Chase affected pretty much everything, even his love life. He can't go back to that. And you think back in season 1 when Oliver was essentially a playboy, and he was just flirting with any girl he sees and just showing the transition he's gone through. So many people have said that Oliver hasn't gone through any transition, that he goes through the same thing every season. I wouldn't say that. I mean, this is an Oliver we've never seen before, an Oliver that doesn't even want women involved with him. That's very different than what we've seen before, and that was something I definitely really did like seeing, that he doesn't even really want to have a girlfriend at this point because he just feels that he's just putting her in danger, which he kind of is, honestly. So he later summons Anatoly to the bunker, says that he's his only option. We know that things are not great between Oliver and Anatoly. We've set that up quite well, but as we see here, there's a good reason why. He wants Anatoly to kill Chase. He knows how powerful Anatoly can be, and he feels that killing Chase is the best way to do that. So Anatoly's surprised that Oliver's giving up his secret identity, but Oliver admits that Anatoly was right about how he couldn't separate the monster within him, and we realize how important those flashbacks really were last week. Like, a lot of times people say the flashbacks are just filler, but I feel like that wasn't the case last week. Like I said, it was setting up a lot of what's to come, and here we go. This is exactly shows why those flashbacks were so integral to last week's plot, because Oliver remembers how Anatoly told him that he can't separate the monster within him, and 5 years later, he's now realizing that. And the Russian says he's happy because his old friend has remembered his Bratva oath and will make his brother very rich. And he assures Oliver that he has the best man with him and says that they must discuss their down payment as a gesture of goodwill. And Oliver promises that he will give Anatoly his first payment that night, and the second after he takes out Chase. That's the one thing he needs to do. If he takes out Chase, everything else will be fine, and that's our main thing going on here, is that he's going to try to get the Bratva to take over where the team left off, basically. So at Helix, Felicity discovers that Chase is using an optic scanner that Cord Industry is developing. She'll need physical access to Chase's scrambler to unscramble the algorithm. So Diggle delivers with few weapons that Lila could authorize without them being missed, and Felicity hasn't checked in. Curtis gets a report of a break-in at a medical laboratory. The team goes in without Felicity's surveillance backup, and Spartan then insists that they take out their opposition as clean as possible. Dinah takes out the first 2 men, and Wild Dog points out that the men are stealing a diabetes drug, and he and Spartan move in. And I like a lot of this episode was actually focused on the ensemble. Like, Oliver definitely was a big part of it, but we got to see the ensemble's opinion of what they really wanted to do. And one of the robbers addresses them in Russia. Anatoly steps out, says that he has an invitation to be there from Oliver, and here's where things really here's where we really do get to the meat of the story. Because at the mayor's office, Diggle barges in. Oliver has already heard from Anatoly at this point, so we know. He's already basically agreed that Anatoly's doing this for him, but he reminds Diggle that he told the team to stand down. He explains that Anatoly is there to kill Chase. Only for that. That's all he needs him to do. He needs him to kill Chase, and then he can do whatever he wants. If Anatoly wants to stay, that's up to him, but he really just needs him to kill Chase, because honestly, the team can't do that. The team is just not strong enough for that kind of thing. I mean, as good as Renee and Dinah are at being very loyal to Oliver, which I would have never suspected Renee be this loyal, but I'm happy he has, because I remember in the first half of the season, I was very worried he was going to become a problem, and we've seen so far, at least, he's been very loyal to him, and that's something that Oliver really has seen, is that he can very much trust Renee and Dinah. They're just not powerful enough to take down Chase. They can't do it by themselves, and he needs someone stronger, and that being the Bratva, and basically, Diggle says they don't hire criminals, but Oliver says that he will pay any price to stop Chase and take the guilt on him. And when Diggle refused to let Oliver make the mistake, Oliver says he won't let Diggle get hurt. He points to the people are dead because of him and says it's a truth that he kept himself from seeing, and that's something that he's finally realizing, that the reason that they're dead is not because of themselves or because of who killed them, it's because of Oliver. And it makes sense. We'll go all the way back to Moira's death. Why was Moira killed by Slade? Well, because she was close to Oliver, and Slade killed her for that reason. Why was, Laurel killed? Well, Laurel was close to Oliver, and, Dark very well knew that, and when Laurel tried to push his buttons, Dark then killed her. Why was Tommy killed? Well, that was because Oliver couldn't save him in time, and that was because Merlin knew how to get through to Oliver, so that's why Tommy was killed. So a lot of these deaths have very much been because of Oliver, and we very much do see that, and you can really understand why Oliver feels that way. So this is very much, Chase, Wally definitely has gotten into Oliver's head, and he's definitely making him, go through this crazy transition period. A lot of what Oliver's addressing, he's not wrong about. Like, these are definitely things that are problems that Oliver's always had, and Diggle refused to let Oliver make the mistake. Oliver says that he won't let Diggle get hurt, and Oliver figures that Anatoly killing Chase is the best solution, and it's really the only one. It tells Diggle for the last time to stand down, and I like that he doesn't want him involved with this. That's how you can see how much he cares about Diggle because of that. And the next day, Felicity's apartment, the team discusses Oliver's plan. We see Lance has already banned Renee from City Hall until Chase is gone because he just doesn't want Renee to get involved, and Diggle asks to talk to Felicity in private, and once they leave, Curtis checks Felicity's laptop and a message from Helix about Chase's scrambler. Meanwhile, Diggle tells Felicity that they both need to talk to Oliver, and he knows that Felicity's involved with Helix, and Felicity suggests that maybe they should just stay out of Oliver's way. So she really doesn't want to push Oliver's buttons any further. She already knows that he already told him to stay down, and for once, Felicity's actually listening to him, which, yeah, this is the aspect of Felicity I don't usually love. I don't love the Felicity that tries to motivate Oliver and things like that. I think she's good for that, definitely, but it feels like they've relied on her a lot, especially these last two seasons. I like that they really are getting someone else to do that, because Diggle and Oliver have a much stronger bond than that of him and Felicity. Him and Felicity, they just don't have that bond they used to. And to her, she could care less of what Oliver's doing. She knows that Oliver wants him to stand down, and for Diggle's sake, she wants him to listen. So I like the way that she is listening to Oliver for the most part. But Anatoly, that meets with Oliver, explains how they're going to use the diabetes drug to create an opiate, and he admits that the Bratva earnings have fallen off, and the drug will help secure his position. This is just going to make him more powerful, and Diggle comes in after Curtis hacks the locks. Anatoly leaves them alone. Oliver refuses to discuss the matter, and Diggle says that he dedicated 5 years of his life for Oliver's crusade, and when he says that Oliver wouldn't let criminals into his city, Oliver says that Diggle doesn't know what kind of man he is, and he explains that Chase showed him the truth about himself, and his crusade was an excuse to murder people, and the foundation of everything he's done is a lie, and he just won't stand by it anymore and watch them participate in his murder spree. Everything he's doing, he's just getting people closer and closer to death, and again, he's not wrong with that, but Oliver tells Diggle he's beyond redemption, tells him to stay away from everything and let the Bratva do their job, and that's very well explored here. I really do love how focused Oliver is on doing this. Like, he really does want Diggle to stay down. You can tell why Diggle doesn't want Oliver to do that, because it's not the same person he knows. But that Oliver is very much evolved, and I think this episode really signifies how much Oliver has changed within the show. So we then cut to 5 years ago, and we see Anatoly visits with sick children at the local hospital, and he tells Oliver that the Bratva can't buy for the medicine necessary, so he needs Oliver to help him steal the money that they need. So back at the apartment, Renee wonders if they should be cool with the Bratva killing Chase. Diggle comes in, says that once Oliver is thinking clearly, he'll regret what he's doing. He plans to bring Chase to justice the right way and save Oliver's soul. He knows the real Oliver wouldn't actually do this, but honestly, this is a different Oliver. I think this is the Oliver we're going to be stuck with for the rest of the season. I'm fine with that. I like a more rational... No, he's not really thinking the most rationally, but you can't really. Think of all the shit that Chase has done. I've said it before. Chase has been ahead of him most of the season. Everything that Oliver thinks he's done, he's had to rethink because of how 10 steps ahead Chase has really been. He's always been on top of things, and that's something that he really is not understood. He's really had his hand in every single pot in Oliver's life. He's been following him for the longest time. He's been doing what he can to get vengeance on his dad's death, and that's something that Oliver, I think, is really starting to understand how serious it actually is. But Officer Lopez then the car with Chase when a truck cuts them off. The Bratva jumps out, opens fire. Lopez shoots back from cover. Dinah unleashed her sonic cry. Renee and Diggle then take on the others. Lopez tells Chase to run. Anatoly approaches Diggle and asks why he's interfering, because again, Oliver told him not to. But Curtis then tackles Chase, who knocks him away. Lopez and the others come over. Curtis runs to a waiting van that Dinah's driving. Curtis checks the optic scanner he took from Chase and says that he got it as they drive off with Renee and Diggle. And the next day at the mayor's office, a WITSEC official tells Oliver and Chase that there's a leak in the DA's office and they're transferring Chase to federal custody because they know that they definitely can't trust him. And Oliver insists that Chase's office is of paramount security to the mayor's office. And as Oliver goes, Chase secretly congratulates him on trying something, and Oliver tells him that this isn't over. And I like the way that Oliver is basically forced to make it seem like he's sympathetic towards Chase and that he actually cares about him and that Chase is actually a good guy. You know, he has to play this role, and that's something that Oliver hasn't had to do for the past 4 seasons. He hasn't had to play that role as mayor. You know, if he was the Arrow, he could very well show how he felt, but because he is the mayor and has to, you know, cover up that identity, I like that he is basically forced to act like everything's fine between him and Chase when obviously it's not. So later, Oliver visits Diggle, says the Bratva can't get at Chase. He punches Diggle, says that they're never going to be done, and doesn't believe what Chase shoved into Oliver's head. And Diggle tells Oliver that he needs to stop pushing Diggle away because he's not going anywhere. And Oliver says that he believes what he is, even if Diggle doesn't. And Diggle reminds me he was going to let himself rot in prison for killing his brother. And when he did, Oliver told him to atone for what he did. And Oliver's essentially doing the same thing. And Diggle says that Oliver should do the same. And yeah, I mean, but that's kind of what Oliver's doing. He is kind of atoning for his sins, just in a different way that Diggle is. He's doing it in a slightly different way. And you can understand why Diggle feels this way. I know a lot of people said that, oh, they just had Diggle play, you know, the peacemaker and the one who was trying to redeem Oliver, you know, that one person was trying to get through to him. I didn't see it as that. I saw this as Oliver did him a service by telling him to atone for his sins, and now Diggle's seeing what he's doing and he feels doing the opposite of that, when in reality, Oliver's doing the exact same thing, just in a different approach than Diggle is. In many ways, I think Oliver's doing it more successfully than he is, and he tells Oliver to become the man who deserves it. Oliver says he doesn't know how, and Diggle assures him that he doesn't have to doodle him. When Oliver says he doesn't know how to do it, I genuinely feel he means that, because again, what the hell is he supposed to do? I mean, he's tried so many different things. This really seems like this is the only result, because everything else has failed. This is the only thing he can do, and Diggle again has to stand down because of it, because Oliver's just that terrified that he's gonna get himself killed, which I would not be surprised if that happens. But at Helix, Felicity and Elaine are discussing plans when Curtis comes in. She realizes that he tracked her using nanites and shows her the optic scanner he took from Chase. She takes it, discovers that the encryption algorithm is encrypted, and Elena suggests the Cord can decrypt it, and that Felicity and Curtis can break into the company. So Oliver meets with Anatoly, says his former team doesn't give up. They convince him not to. He tells Anatoly that their deal is off. He doesn't want to be involved with him, and Anatoly says he's not leaving Star City until he gets what he came for. Oliver asks him as a friend, and Anatoly tells him that if Oliver interferes, then there is no favor that will repair the break. Remember, these two are already on bad terms. You know, we don't know what happens 5 years ago, but something has definitely caused a rift in their friendship, and this was the one chance Oliver has to finally be able to redeem their friendship, and Oliver really is backing out, and this is not only going to damage their friendship, but Anatoly will be against Oliver, and I think that definitely is what we're setting up. We can see here there are just so many things that Oliver has done wrong, and he's trying to atone his sins for that at the same time. It's just there's so much riding on that, and I really do love the way, like I said, that this season is focusing on that. So we cut to 5 years ago. Anatoly, Oliver, and the Bratva soldiers break into the medicine storage facility. Oliver takes out the guards, breaking one man's neck, and back in the present, Oliver tells Renee, Dinah, and Diggle that the Bratva isn't backing down. He was afraid that asking them to kill Chase would corrupt them more than he already has, and he asks them to help prove that Diggle is right and Chase is wrong, and his teammate says that they're there for him, and I like they really do want to help him with this. But once the team suits up, Oliver wears a simple baklava, and they break into a drug manufacturing warehouse. Felicity and Curtis break into Cord Industries. They come to a guard. Felicity tranks him, which that was badass the way Felicity got to do that, but Oliver takes a sentry and warns the others. Diggle finds the manufacturing lab. They find the manufacturing lab, take out the workers. Anatoly and more soldiers arrive. Anatoly then recognizes Oliver. He says he's prepared an insurance plan. He shows Oliver a video room full of hostages, and Oliver tells Wild Dog and Spartan to get the hostage while he deals with the Bratva. So Anatoly gives the orders to kill the hostage, and Oliver jumps him. Dinah finds hostage, attacks the guards. Wild Dog and Spartan arrive. Together they take out the Bratva. Oliver attacks Anatoly's men, but avoids killing them, and Anatoly draws a gun on Oliver, says that Oliver would have killed them before. The team take out the remaining guards. They free the hostage. One of the T-Spears rolls in. Curtis sends his T-Spears ahead. They find the decryptor, and Felicity has brought the scrambler with her, goes to work. Anatoly lowers his gun, tells Oliver to start by killing him. Oliver shoots the alarm, and Anatoly has no choice but to run. He has to, and after a moment, Oliver runs out the other way. So later at the bunker, Felicity and Curtis show the others the descrambled video proving Chase is in fact Prometheus, and they plan to put it up on YouTube, and Oliver says they're back in business with a few minor changes, and he shows them his new costume. So He's got this new costume. It's really cool, actually. I'm interested in seeing where we're going to go with that. But we go to 5 years ago. The Bratva just gave the medicine to the children. Oliver figures that Anatoly thought saving the children would convince him not to leave. He says he needs to save his own home, and Anatoly can do without him. But Anatoly worries about what he'll become without Oliver, and then suggests that they get drunk before they drop Oliver off at the island. So now we're starting to see what really has caused that rift. That by being alone, Anatoly, he's grown very, he's just grown very bitter, and he's grown a lot more incessant that Oliver returned. He can't really be without Oliver, and we've seen that. And back in the present, Anatoly arranged a meeting with Oliver, says he's leaving his best man, Star City. They want revenge on the people who put him away, and Anatoly says that Oliver betrayed the Bratva, and Oliver says the man he knew would never betray a friend and threaten innocent people for a payday. He thought Anatoly could set the Bratva on a better path, but he's no better than Gregor. Basically, he's just as bad, and Anatoly says that he did what he had to do to keep the Bratva together and stay alive after Oliver left. So I love realizing that this is actually Anatoly's fault and not Oliver's, that he essentially couldn't do it together on his own. He needed Oliver by his side, and because of Oliver leaving, Anatoly had to do what he can. I'm wondering if in season 6 we're going to go back to Russia, and the big part of the story is going to be helping Anatoly as the Bratva. I think that's going to be a big part of season 6. At least I think that's what that's setting up, but we'll have to see. But Lance and Dinah tell the SCPD officers that the video has been independently verified, so it looks like the video is going to go up and Chase is about to be outed as Prometheus. But then we get to the ending here, which this ending was fucking awesome. I love the way this ended. At the federal safe house, the two agents see the text message. Chase notices his reaction. He kills them, beating one man to death. That way they can't put the video online. He drives away, casually whistling. The police pass him on the way to the safe house, knowing what he's done. And that is the way this episode ends. Really incredible stuff overall. But let's just get this episode and where I think we're going to go for the last half of this season. So, overall, guys, like I said, definitely not as good as last week's episode, but I feel like that episode is going to be the best for a while until something else comes to, in place of it. I don't know what that's going to be. Maybe the finale. I don't really know. But damn, was this episode good. I mean, this really was just a great character episode. It really does show the transition that Oliver's gone through, the different allies he's made throughout his life, and how that's really coming back to, really just bite him in the ass overall. I mean, you got Anatoly here, who has been very close to Oliver, and who we saw was his closest ally 5 years ago, but so much has changed. He's been without Oliver for 5 years, and he's grown very bitter because of that, and we've seen he hasn't really been able to hold that Bratva position. He's failed at the Bratva, basically, and he's betrayed him, and he really feels that as, because he isn't without Oliver, he can't really, control himself, and he can't really, be subservient to the Bratva in the way he was with Oliver. And I don't know if we're going to a place where we're going to see more of that in season 6, but I feel like that's where we're headed. I feel like we're definitely going to see a lot more of that as time goes on, and I really did like getting into what was going on there, because I like that they've set it up where Oliver did something, but no, it's really been that Oliver left, and Anatoly just couldn't be without him. I'm interested in seeing where we're going to go with that. I think that whole story is very interesting. But once again, Chase, I mean, Josh Segarra is just killing it in this performance. And honestly, a lot of people say Dolph Lundgren is great this season. Josh Segarra, I think, really is very, at least at this point, a lot of people are starting to really praise him. And obviously, for the first half of the season, he was whatever. I mean, I like Chase the character, but I just didn't really think much of him. But he is absolutely killing it in this role. That last scene where he killed, he literally killed all of those guards, basically, he ended up killing those men to death. That way they can't upload that video, was incredible. I love the way that went down. I love that he's not letting Oliver get the better of him. He's not letting anyone expose him, and he's gonna do what he can to try to cover his own ass as much as he can, and I love the way that's going down. I think he's doing an incredible job in that role. And what a great cliffhanger, honestly. Like I said, this is how you do a hiatus episode. The Flash had a problem with it. Supergirl had a problem. Not Arrow. Arrow is absolutely killing this season. I love where they're going. And you can really tell that Oliver, he's realizing that he needs the team by his side. He really does need them involved. But he is definitely trying to be, I think, a little bit more careful how he approaches things, because he can't get them too involved with what's going on. But he also can't call in someone like Anatoly, who, he can't just straight up kill Chase. Because if he kills Chase, he definitely will regret what he did. And we know, again, Oliver doesn't kill. So I like he had someone else wanting to kill, and the way he's kind of realizing a lot of these deaths are his fault, I think is definitely very interesting. You can tell he's really starting that, Chase is really starting to get into his head, and it's really starting to mess with him as a whole, and I think that whole thing is very interesting. And then Felicity as well. Like I said, I like that Felicity is kind of being put on the back burner. Like, she's still involved with what's going on with Chase, but she doesn't really have much to say in terms of what Oliver's doing. She's not making him do something different. She's not deeply, being like, why, Oliver, why? Like, she's not whining about it. And that's, I think, the big change they've had with Felicity. They've realized that while Felicity is good, she needs to be her own character. She can't always be involved with what's going on with Oliver. And her working at Helix, I think, has been a very good change. I like that they've done that. I think it's worked really well for her. I think it's benefited her character. We've got that quirky, fun Felicity back, and that's something I've really liked about this season as a whole. They've really embraced that Felicity has to be comic relief. In such a dark season, we need some sort of comic relief, and Felicity and Curtis, that needs to be our comic relief, and I definitely really like that. I also like ways that was to really utilize the rest of the team. There were some really fun scenes where we just saw Dinah and Renee just, a lot of good interplay between them, a lot of good banter there. We can see how well this team works together. They have very good chemistry, and they truly are turning this into an ensemble show. We're really seeing the opinion of the team. This isn't just focused on Oliver. It's about the team in general, how much they want to be involved with what's going on. I think that definitely is playing a very good role here, and I really did love that throughout this episode. I thought that was definitely very well handled, and I think, again, they're handling that very well. And again, that's very well juxtaposed to the flashbacks. So the flashbacks were a little bit different in this episode because they weren't exactly being the same as the main story. If anything, they were kind of being the opposite. They were showing Oliver killing people, and what Oliver's done in the past, that past approach is not going to work anymore. And I thought those flashbacks, they just felt, they stood out more because of the fact that we see Oliver, he's really changing as a person. He's realizing, the errors of his ways, and he's really trying to change that in any way he can. And by going more into all of that, I think it's really giving the flashbacks more and more of a purpose than we've had before. We are really close to the island, and I'm very excited to see where we're going to go from there. But overall, guys, this was another amazing episode. I can't wait to see where the rest of the season's going. Like I said, if we continue to go where we are this season, this could really end up being the best season of Arrow yet. I think they really are understanding character very well. They're understanding who Oliver is. They're understanding how to tell a very compelling story, and I can't wait to see really where we're going to go in the last 4 or 5 episodes left, which I can't believe we're at the end of the season. The season has really gone by very fast, but if I had to grade this episode, I'm definitely going to give Arrow Season 5, Episode 18, Disbanded, a 4.75 out of 5, or an A. So overall, guys, that's it for my review for Arrow. We are now going on a hiatus for a couple of weeks, which I'm fine with. Obviously, they want to end the seasons in May. I think it's good we're going on a hiatus. I definitely don't want to see the season end too soon, so the more you drag it out, the better. I'm completely fine with that. But that's it for this review. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you guys in my next one, which will be for the season finale of Legion, which I am so hyped for, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.